Hey everyone, and welcome to the second part of this workshop, where we will be getting an in-depth understanding of how the Block Explorer and the status dashboard work. We'll be learning three major things from this video. The first is to interact with the blockchain's Block Explorer. This will be done using XDC's Block Explorer website. Secondly, we will take a deep dive into what each parameter means on the Block Explorer. And finally, to get a bird's eye view of the status of the blockchain, we'll be using the status dashboard. Picking up where we left off last time, we had transferred some funds from our computer's wallet to our phone's wallet. Knowing that a blockchain is a public ledger where all transactions are recorded, there should be a way to see this particular transaction on the blockchain along with every single transaction that has happened on the blockchain since its creation. That is what the Block Explorer enables. So to see that, we'll click on the transaction we made and we'll click on the View on Block Explorer button. This will give us a lot of information about each transaction. So let's go through each parameter in detail. We look at a lot of these parameters like transaction hash and everything, and they have a description about them given to their side if we hover on the question mark icon. So just to briefly go over them, the transaction hash is the hash of the transaction which was taken place, and the receipt status tells us whether that transaction went through or not. So this particular transaction went through as we saw in the last video. So that's why it shows success next to it. Otherwise, it would show failure. Block here tells us which block it got confirmed in. So in the 30248054th block is when this particular transaction got confirmed. Apart from that, it tells us the timestamp, which is the exact time at which this particular transaction was confirmed. So it's telling me that it was confirmed 8 minutes ago. It also tells us two more things: the from address and the to address. So the address from where it was sent, which we can see if we go to our MetaMask wallet, we can see that my account number is 0965. So it starts with 965. And if we go back to the Block Explorer, it's telling me that the from address was 965. Even if I look at the place where it was sent to, so if I click on this, it starts with F23. And if I go back to the Block Explorer, that is also telling me that the to address started with F23. This essentially shows that every transaction has the sender and recipient stored on the blockchain in a public way for everyone to see. Apart from that, it also tells us the value which was sent. In our case, we sent 112 XDC. The gas used by the transaction, which are essentially the transaction fees which are paid to the blockchain for this transaction to occur. Gas price is the price which each unit of gas costs. So 21,000 into this value is the actual transaction cost. So if you multiply these two, you will get this value. And that is the amount of fees which you had to pay eventually. Finally, input data is something which will come into picture if we are deploying something like a smart contract, where there will be some sort of metadata along with the transaction which occurs. But right now, since it was a plain transaction of funds from one account to the other, there is no input data enabled with this. Another interesting thing which we can look at is information about the block which confirmed this particular transaction. So if we go to this particular website, which tells us about the block 30248054, which confirmed our transaction, it tells us a lot of metadata about it as well. So height is the same as the block number. Epoch is an interesting concept. What epoch essentially means is all of the blocks which have happened till now are divided into time segments called epochs. So it can mean different things for different blockchains, but usually an epoch can be something between 100 to 1000 blocks. So in this case, if one epoch is 1000 blocks, then any block from block number 50 to block number 70, basically from block number 1 to block number 1000, all of them will happen in epoch number 1. That is what it means. Timestamp again means the time at which this particular block got confirmed. So it's telling me it happened 11 minutes ago. And the number of transactions which this block contained. So it contained two transactions. This contains the hash of the block and the parent hash of the block. As you know, the blockchain is essentially chained together because each block points to its parent through its hash. So if we click on the parent hash here and if we open it in a new tab, we will see that that actually opens up information about the block 30248053, which we are seeing here. And that is how the blockchain essentially continues. Then the block here was created in Australia. It was verified by a miner in Asia. The finality is 100%, which means that there is no chance of it being reverted. So that means every transaction that went through in this particular block is 100% going to be a part of the final blockchain. Hence, there is no need to worry about whether the transaction that went through actually will stand or not. Finally, the gas used is being told the gas limit is the maximum amount of gas which can be used for a particular block, and other extra data which it may contain. So this was information about transactions and blocks within a block explorer. But looking at this information gives us a very detailed view of a blockchain. But to get a bird's eye view of the status of a blockchain, we can use the status dashboard. So each blockchain has a different status dashboard, and we are looking at the XDC network's status dashboard, and it's telling us all of the things we need to know from a bird's eye view. For example, it's telling us the best top block, which is the latest block which occurred. It's telling us the average transaction rate, how many seconds ago the last block was. You can also see that it's refreshing in live time. So every I think 20 or 30 seconds a new block will be formed, and then that will be added to this value. The average block time, the uptime. The uptime is essentially the amount of time this particular blockchain has been up without facing any issues. Then the max block size, which we saw previously, the gas price, and the active nodes. So the active nodes essentially tells us that there are 232 nodes which are currently actively participating within this network, and the map shows us where each one is located. You can also see that there are some red dots here, which is telling us that these are the 5 nodes which are a part of the network, but they're not active currently. Apart from that, these graphs tell us about the block time, which is on average 2 seconds, it seems. Then the transactions which are going in per block. So you can see that there are some spikes of 105 transactions per block, or it can also be as low as 1 or 2 transactions per block. The block size in Way. Way is a unit of cryptocurrency, and block propagation time. So that shows that a block has propagated to 24% of all of the nodes within the first 0.25 seconds. Then up till the next zero point 0.5 seconds, it went to a cumulative 48%. So at least half of the nodes, like close to half of the nodes, had that latest block in the first zero point 0.5 seconds of its creation. This is what block propagation means. And finally, this is a list of all of the nodes which we saw. Like we saw that there are 237 active nodes, out of which 232 are up. So all of the ones which are green are up, and there might be 5 red ones at the bottom. Those are the ones which are down right now. So this concludes our second video of the workshop. Just to recap what we learned, we interacted with the blockchain's block explorer and saw the transaction which we had made from our computer to our phone on the explorer. We then explored the various parameters within the block explorer, what each one means, what each one's display shows, and finally we took a look at the overall state and health of the blockchain using the status dashboard. This was used to understand what the overarching picture of a particular blockchain looks like and understanding what the information displayed over there means.